Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other. No matter how difficult it is, life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are happy because of you.
Viewers, a few years ago, Africa had one of the most prosperous countries on the continent. That country was called Libya. Libya under Gaddafi, after the overthrow of King Idris, became a prosperous country, one of the first-class countries on the continent of Africa. Libya played a vital role in the liberation of South Africa and the liberation of the remaining states that lacked support financially, militarily, to remove colonial powers from the continent of Africa. Libya became one of the few founding states on the continent of Africa to have free education up to the university, to have free water, free money after you come out of the university. Students were given $5,000 to start, less unemployment, which has killed most of the African states. But while these things were taking place and the development was taking place in Libya and on the African soil, several Western countries were hatching a plan to kill, to maim, to destroy the country of Libya. Under Resolution 1970 of the United Nations Security Council, they did manage to kill, to destroy, to land bombs on the country called Libya. A resolution that was taken by France to the United Nations Security Council became a cornerstone that destroyed the entire North African politics once for all. Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, the then leader of Libya, was very categorical that he was not a terrorist, but the people coming to take over Libya were terrorists. He warned of the circumstances, dire consequences. If he was taken out of power, Libya would come down to nothing, and insurgency, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, all types of terrorists will gather in the Maghreb and the northern part of Africa and destroy the economies, something which is happening today in the Sahel region, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Nigeria, and other states around, in Chad, other states around the Sahel region. It is sad, therefore, that a man comes to borrow money from you. You lend him the money. He goes to use that money to influence an election. He wins an election. but he comes back to plot to kill you who has given him the money. That is what happened between Gaddafi and Nicolas Sarkozy, the former president of France, who drafted the resolution 1970, commandeered the resolution 1970, until Libya was bombarded, Gaddafi was killed. Sarkozy and his Western allies were able to destroy Libya. As we speak today, Libya is divided into two camps. The French have taken Benghazi, and the other allies have taken Tripoli. With the help of Turkey, they do drill oil, take out, siphon oil illegally. There is no accountability at all taking place in Libya. Yesterday, a court in France found Mr. Sarkozy guilty of having used money to influence elections in France. The court in Paris sentenced Mr. Sarkozy 1 year in prison. Today or tomorrow, what we know, he has been sentenced. But it is the same money that he took from Mama Gaddafi that made him to be sentenced. The legal department of African Union has not made an attempt to try to help Libya, to bring the people who destroyed, killed, maimed the people of Libya on trial. It is therefore very sad for us to sit here. There is no African leader, no African head of state who is talking about Gaddafi today and the plight of Libya. Even successive AU summits, we seem to come to show for photos, but we don't deliberate much to make resolutions bite on the question of Libya. Libya is bleeding. Its resources are being siphoned out by France and other Western countries that have actually, plus Russia, which has also come in on the side of General Khalifa Haftar, and they are together as members of the Permanent United Nations Security Council. They are siphoning the resources of Libya. They have decided to divide the country into two, in Tripoli, two governments working in different directions. How then, why then is African Union very silent? Why has African Union not spoken and stood up to ask the Security Council of the United Nations to tell one side of Libya, to tell France that what you are doing in Libya is wrong? Why? Any student of international relations would know that the AU itself is captured by the African Union Commission chairperson, Dr. Mohamed Faki of Chad, is captured. Therefore, he cannot condemn the actions of the same people. As Sankara said, you can't condemn the one who feeds you. How do you disagree with the man who is giving you food? He will remove the food and you will not have any food, you die of hunger. But time has come for us Africans to rethink, to review, to look at the policies that have dismembered this continent. One of the policies that has dismembered this continent and one of the nations that has pretended to help us at the same time while destroying us is France. Are we going to sit and wait until we are all finished? Or are we going to start making a move to change the direction of African Union working mechanisms? These questions are loaded. Within the next 15 days, the African Union heads of state will meet in Addis Ababa. What action will they take to change the course of suffering of the people of Libya that they have endured for the last 7 to 8 years since the war began and the toppling of Muammar Gaddafi? It is therefore very sad that as an African, I sit here and we sit here. We have lamented, we have talked. Action must be taken. I will move to the African Court of Justice and Human Rights to file an application for former President Sarkozy to show cause why he should not stand for trial in African Court of Human Rights and Justice for having authorized, equipped, and led a bombardment, for having misled the United Nations Security Council to bomb Libya under the pretext that it had nuclear weapons. I will move to that court in the next coming month. I will appeal to my fellow Africans to contribute immensely to this application, to contribute to enable me to file this application. Since the court in Paris has been able to sentence Mr. Sarkozy, a court in Africa can also declare the sentence in absentia for Mr. Sarkozy. Why not? Why can't we discuss the issue of Libya then? Why is Libya becoming a tough banana for every country and we no longer talk about it? It's because we are afraid that some of us took part in the dismembering of this state called Libya. As I land my mic, I want to thank all of you people that is one of the bold steps that I have taken on this Thursday, 2nd February, the year of our Lord 2023, that I will move to the African Court of Justice and Human Rights, place my documents, seeking answers from the court as to why Mr. Nicolas Sarkozy cannot be charged and called to stand trial ever if he steps on any territory of the African people or African continent. For the last 6 to 7 years, there has been a smearing state of a proxy war in the region. A proxy war from the time of the overthrow attempted coup in Burundi by a general who has disappeared in thin air. Since that time, a proxy war was planted on this region of East and Central Africa and the Great Lakes region. Apart from Somalia, which was already in conflict, and apart from South Sudan, that was already at war with each warring parties, another war was looming silent, engineered, prepared, supplied, logistically equipped by foreign masters. Would one wonder, one would again wonder, or would one wonder, why? Surely, Mozambique, of all places, which has been so peaceful since Renamo laid down their guns and joined politics, Cape Delgado had a war. Where did these people come from? Who invented this war? Who was looking for what in this region? All of a sudden, the northern part of Mozambique became impassable. The southern part of Tanzania became impassable. A proxy war. A proxy war started looming around the borders of Rwanda, Burundi. The government of Rwanda closed the border with Uganda. For 3 years, and the people have forgotten this, for almost 3 years, the Uganda-Kenya border, the Uganda-Rwanda border, and the Rwanda-Burundi border was not working. A climax of 3 years closure of this border, businesses died. Most of us who were doing businesses with Rwanda lost, became paupers on the streets of Nairobi, Kigali, Kampala. Trucks were held across in those places painfully. Nobody bothered to repay us, or nobody bothered about the plight of people and how many families lost their livelihood as a result of the closure of the border between Uganda and Rwanda and Burundi, and to some extent affected the border posts of Bunagana and other areas which goes to Congo. In the north of Uganda and Kenya, western part of Kenya, there was a war taking place. The South Sudan peace process by IGAD created a new dimension where the war, the gun is silenced, but the peace remained fragile. Across in Khartoum in Sudan, a military coup came about, overthrew General Bashir, a strong man who had kept, to some extent, that part of the country to oneness. Up to now, there are demonstrations across the streets, the towns of Sudan. Another war erupted in Ethiopia between Tigray and the Ethiopian government forces. We lost immensely. We lost thousands and thousands of people. Many people have suffered starvation. Medical treatment has never been seen. Education, commerce was disrupted. Buildings were destroyed. Infrastructure all broken down. A proxy war. Across in Somalia lies a war that never ends, but changes the names from AMISOM to Artemis. And we keep on changing. We might even change given the new dimension of the Al-Shabaab operations. On the border between Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda and Uganda, rebels emerged. The M23-1A, there are two types of M23. The M23A and the M23B, which was part and parcel of the CDM of Laurent Kunda. Several people in the DRC Congo have been taken, shipped, arraigned in court, in the International Criminal Court, in the hope that the others behind will learn a lesson. Nothing has happened. Nobody has learned a lesson. The war continues. Two rebel groups, M23, one led by Matsanga or Makenga, fled, started fighting and coming in Uganda. Another group went to seek asylum. Their grievances were very clear that they were being discriminated by the Congolese government, that it did not give them identity and they did not recognize them as Congolese. Whether their claims are genuine, we live to see what the mediators will find. But this proxy war, above all this, on the southern part of the border between Rwanda and Burundi, the two presidents need a bodyguard in the middle to sit in one room. They don't see eye to eye. The border is still closed. For you to go to Rwanda, you need to come to Nairobi in order to fly to Rwanda if you are from Burundi, and vice versa. Across in the Central African Republic, ladies and gentlemen, as I come to
we tell them just be patient for a bit.
Last week, we saw quite a lot of activities in Africa and on the continent of Africa and the United States. The journey between Africa and the United States takes hours, almost 11 hours, depending on which country you are from. Many heads of state who accepted the invitation and took the invitation of President Joe Biden arrived in Washington, D.C. Many were involved in quite a number of activities, talking about health, investment, businesses, economy, politics, governance. But one thing that came out of this summit is the summit was called as a knee-jerk action against the Czechs, against Russia and China. In the statement that were seen by the Secretary of Defense for United States, where he says China and Russia are destabilizing Africa, does it therefore mean that he also wants to come in to stop the destabilization of Africa, or continue also with the same game so that they are at par? It is sad, therefore, for Africa to sit and watch and listen to the same people who have come to and brought those conflicts on our continent. Remember Africa, for every war fought on the African continent, there must be a funder, there must be a manufacturer of guns, there must be a supply of guns, there must be what we call people's gain from the perspective of Western Hemisphere. Is Africa being prepared for a Cold War axis? The answer is yes. Surely on earth, the people, the citizens lack quite a number of things. They are dying of diseases that could be cured. Is there anything that we can gain from such projects like the space? Are we not bringing more of division, scramble for Africa, as our show has shown? Is Africa on the road for scrambling, or is it being scrambled? Is Africa a new frontier of a Cold War between the West and the East? How long shall we be part and parcel of wars that are not our wars, but wars manufactured from outside and brought in for us to receive casualties, hospitals, bomb our buildings, kill our people? When and at what time shall we say enough is enough? Thank you very much, viewers. This has been Matsanga Global Trends, bringing you live from Punchline Africa TV. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, the panel. Thank you.
Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other. No matter how difficult it is, life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are happy because of you.
Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Punchline Africa on the show Matsanga's Global Trends. This show, Matsanga's Global Trends, intends to look at concepts, African concepts, no worldly concepts that Africa has picked. Have we picked wrong concepts that don't work for our continent? For example, Africa today has three major diseases, three major obstacles: poverty, ignorance, and of course disease. Why is it that it's only Africa, not South America, not Latin America, not Asia, picked upon to be an experimental laboratory for the rest of Western Hemisphere's working or not working solutions? Is it our problem, therefore, as Africans, that we have picked on wrong concepts without interrogating them, without thinking about them, without reviewing them? Does Africa need a renaissance to find its rightful position in the world place, in the new global world, where Africa looks like it's a second tier, not the first tier? We have never been on the first tier system. We've always been the receiving end, yet we are the main producers of all the minerals, resources that are needed in the Northern Hemisphere and the Western Hemisphere. Today, as I speak to you through this video,
Somalia has been on the lips of many people in Africa, but Somalia also has been the pain for the people of Africa. Since 1991, Somalia has been the biggest pain that Africa has ever seen. People killed, governments overthrown, assassinations, the state collapsed to become a pariah state. But Somalia is a country that is bound to bounce back, given that they have now a new leadership, a leadership that can bring about peace, a leadership that can see what way Somalia, which way do we go. The presence of American troops that were taken 700 and now the return of 500 American troops is a boost.
the foreign concepts that Africa picks on, as I was talking about elections, there is nowhere written in the Western Hemisphere doctrine against which is picked and used on the African continent that elections should be held every 5 years or 4 years for some countries on the African continent. We just picked that doctrine of holding elections every 5 years. Yet our GDP, our per capita, and every type of income that we have does not sustain elections every 5 years. Is that not a concept which is misplaced on the continent of Africa? I'm not saying that elections are not to be held. I'm simply saying, why do you hold elections? Waste $80 billion, $8 billion, which can bring about hospitals, which can build good roads, that can build waterways, dams for irrigation, boreholes, and then end up destroying the same because of dispute that arises from elections. Across the continent of Africa, most of these things, ladies and gentlemen, those who will be picking this step from today, I will be analyzing my subjects through the headlines that you can see on Punchline Africa TV. Matsanga's global trend or trends has found out there is nothing that Africans gain in having a bungled elections in most of African countries and then end up killing the same economy using $8 billion that would have been used to build bridges, boreholes, waterways, electricity supply. Countries like Nigeria, where electricity supply is in scarcity. If you fly over Nigeria overnight, you might think you are just in an ocean where water is dark. Yet Nigeria has got 241 waterfalls. Ladies and gentlemen, Is this the Africa that we want? Is this the Africa where elections are simply a matter of do or die? Yet in the Western Hemisphere that gave us the concept, elections are just a matter of by the way. There are no rules that force you to vote. You just walk to your polling station, vote for Labour Party or Conservative Party or Liberal Democrats or the Green, the Conservatives, the Communists, the all types of parties, and they go home, sit, wait for results. In our continent of Africa, it is a matter of do or die. It's a matter of death. That every election in Africa is characterized by very dangerous trends. Killing people, cutting people, legs, destroying property, fighting during, before, during, and after elections, calling for sanctions against people from foreign countries because of an election. The list of countries in Africa where elections have been contested is long. For the purposes of this video, I'll pick one example. Nigeria held the elections the last 4 years. Nigeria is going to elections on 25th of February 2023 this month. 93 million people have been registered in Nigeria as voters eligible to vote. 93 million out of a population of 220 million inhabitants. If you look at the campaigning strategies, the campaign itself, the mood itself, the country itself, it is fractured, fragile, broken state of Nigeria. In the north, the people of Maiduguri, Kano, and other states, terrorism has taken over. The state of governance has collapsed. In most parts of Nigeria, for example, killings, kidnap, ransom, gangs, human rights abuses mark our great nation of Nigeria, one of the biggest on the continent of Africa, that the rest of Africa looks at as a model. Is this the type of Africa that we want? Is this election, therefore, not a foreign concept? If we can die because of elections, isn't it time for us to fatigue, evaluate the obstacles, the challenges, the solutions, and find out what we can do to heal our nations from the cancer of bungled bad, or from the cancer of any type of electoral systems that have created and triggered conflicts in Africa. I look at another part, because I will break them in two parts. Another country that I can mention that has been going to war, that has perennial conflicts in search for democracy. The killing of Patrice Lumumba in 1961 by the Belgian colonizers sparked a spiral of conflict that has seen engulfed this nation of Democratic Republic of Congo up to today. The people of DRC Congo have never seen any peace, whether under Mobutu, under Kabila, under Kabila II, under Tshisekedi. Peace has been elusive in this country, huge country, 3 times bigger than Europe. But what has caused chaos in DRC Congo? Economic concept. The concept that DRC Congo and the governments that have been in DRC Congo, successive governments, have brought about the confusion that you see today in Congo. A country subjected to 132 standing rebel groups on its territory, struggling for a foreign concept. That foreign concept is you produce minerals and take them out for the Western world. It's indeed the concept that made Patrice Lumumba to be killed when he said, our minerals are ours and we shall not allow them to be taken out. It's indeed the same concept today that is killing the many people, M23, 132 rebel groups, saying we want a share of Congo. But who pays for all these troubles? It's a foreign companies. Concepts we buy from foreign organizations. The mining giants, the mineral giants of this world, those in search for coltan, platinum, cobalt, copper, timber, mentioned but a few, continue to destroy Africa and continue to give us a bad name. Congo also has a problem of a foreign concept. They try to hold elections and yet they don't have enough resources. Yet they don't have enough education. Yet we don't have enough civic education. We don't have roads. We don't have schools. We don't have radio. We don't have communication. With some areas in Congo, a population of 100 million people. Out of that, only 40 million people are accessible. The rest is 60 million are not accessible. Why have we developed a foreign concept and left our own African concept? Isn't it time, therefore, for Africa to think, for Congo to think which way it goes? Isn't it time, therefore, that people of Africa rise up and say, what concept do we need for our Congo? The last concept, or one of the concepts that I want to touch on, because those are now 3 parts. The third part of the concept is the idea that if elections are held in Africa and are not legitimized by United States of America or Britain or the Western world, they are not considered as elections at all. And as Africans, we have accepted that our elections should be observed by foreign missions that come to this continent of Africa in terms of foreign observers, writing reports about a country that has no toilets, a country that has no roads, a country that is at a war, a country where civic education is scarce, a country where most people don't know their rights, a country where corruption has riddled the bedrock of morality, and we have sunk so low on the continent of Africa that foreign observers whose democracies have been there for over 800 years, some of them would want to come to observe an election where democracy has been nurtured since independence, the first country 65 years ago, Ghana, out of which the military took over 30 years, almost 40, to hand over power to civilian rule. It means democracy has not evolved to a degree for foreign observers from Europe to fly in big numbers and big planes, stay in our hotels, spend most of the time looking at the faults of an election, equating it to a European British election or Swedish election or Norwegian election or French election. It is a shame that Africa allows their elections to be observed by people who have a right even to cancel elections in 2 days before the date, while we in Africa have spent all the colossal amounts of our GDP to hold an election that will be the cause, the trigger of our existence. Is it a concept that you like to take? Africa does not need observers. Africa needs education. Africa needs tools of analysis. As Africa needs to fight corruption. Africa needs to fight poverty. Africa needs to fight ignorance. Africa needs to fight disease. All these factors compounded in one strategy, the strategy of strangulation of African economies and African governance. Then later on, divide and rule them, because we don't come to tell them that if you remove the following, there will be peace, and therefore what will they come to do? The last concept that I look at, tomorrow every African on the continent will be glued. Every television station, every house, every household in Africa will try to imitate a Western Hemisphere approach of Valentine's Day. If you ask many Africans whether love comes on one day, no African will answer as to why he has been with his wife for 45 years, 60 years, 20 years, and the love has continued to be there to blossom in their house, to be part and a parcel that unites them every day. Why then would this be a special day? Why is it a special day in Europe? Why is it a special day in Britain? It is a special day in Britain because In Britain, there is a social contract. In Africa, you have no social contract. In Britain, you are able